I want to say a big thank you to Simply Safe for sponsoring this video. In this video, I'm going to be taking this covered patio and tidying it up some by building an outdoor cabinet. I designed this cabinet specifically to hold a tote up top, a few boxes of things, and an assortment of yard tools. So instead of all of these things being leaned up against the house and looking messy, they can all be in the same area they're needed, but tucked away. I have plans, dimensions, and a cut list available for this project and many others on my website if you're interested. Let me show you how I built it. First off, I am doing something sneaky with this build. Instead of using 1x4 boards to make up the body of the shed, I'm going to be using full panels of exterior rated MDF, but using the CNC to cut in grooves to make it look like individual boards. Now, if you don't have a CNC, don't worry, you can still do this project. I have a video where I show how to use a router to cut in straight lines and create an art scene. The same concept can be applied in many applications. Now the MDF I'm going with is called Armorite. It not only has a moisture resistant rating of MR50, but it also contains zinc borate to resist termites, rot, and other insects. Outside of its exterior rated qualities, Armorite also cuts exceptionally well and comes off a CNC really clean. After the CNC cut my parts, I moved everything to my shop and started building. Before assembly, I'm going to be painting everything, and this took every workbench I could pull out. By the way, a tip for you, if you don't have or can't find painting pyramids, you can easily make your own. I cut up a bunch of scrap, then used a brad nailer to throw a nail into each one. You can use anything to create a standoff that will compress the nailer tip to allow it to shoot. Now, even though Armorite is rated for exterior use and water resistant, I still want to seal it in a certain way to give it the best protection possible. First, I use all of the sharp edges. You can do this with a sanding block, or you can put a 16th inch roundover bit in a palm router and make it go really quick. Next, I applied a sealer to all the parts. Once that was dry, I applied a primer. Then after letting that dry, I applied my paint, which is a clay red. On all of these steps, I found that using a foam brush first to get into the grooves, then brushing away the excess before it dried was best. Then I would come back with a roller to get all of the flat areas. And I'm always impressed with how well this Armorite paints. It doesn't leave all of those fuzzies that standard MDF does. Okay, with finishing knocked out, now it's time to start assembling the big box. I laid the back out on a workbench, then hauled over the two sides. Whew, I do love the way that looks. I moved the back over to one side of the workbench so that I was working near the edge. And this way my drill would have room to pre-drill without running into the bench itself. Having a few of these right angle jigs around makes joining things together easy. I like to attach it to my loose part first, then move it around until things are flush with the back. Now I can pre-drill and throw in a few screws on the side. Next, I moved to the top and threw in a shelf. Keep in mind that the entire inside of this cabinet can be rearranged to fit your specific needs. If you have lots of totes, you can throw in 3 shelves or make the entire thing nothing but shelves. You can see I'm using a scrap cut to length to make setting the shelf easy. Then I repeated by throwing in the bottom. When picking out my screw location, I always come in off the edge about 1 to 2 inches just to prevent splitting. Before adding the board that will hang down from the shelf, I first drilled holes for adjustable shelves. You can definitely have a CNC do this or use a jig, but I wanted to show you a way to DIY it. I keep a piece of pegboard around and circle every other hole along the column I want to use. To transfer the hole locations to the body, I did the same thing. I figured out where the bottom of the cubby would be, then lined up the bottom of my pegboard to it and drilled as I held it in place. Now I can use the shelf that will go in here as a spacer. You want to leave about an 1/8 inch of a gap so that the shelf has room to go in and out easily. But then I could pre-drill and screw everything together. Again, you have options here. You can have 1 shelf like me or cut a few and have 2 or 3. For now though, I've done as much as I can with it laying down on its back working with gravity. Next I need to stand it up. And if you can't guess, this thing is heavy. But where there's a will and a workbench, there is a way. the cabinet upright, I threw in screws along the back of the shelves. I didn't have access to this before because it was laying on its back. I want to say a big thank you to SimpliSafe for sponsoring this video. I've been partnered with SimpliSafe for years now. I use it for my commercial shop, my personal shop, as well as my home. SimpliSafe protects your whole home around the clock 24/7. Every door, window, and room. And it's backed by the best 24/7 professional monitoring in the business that will call the authorities immediately in an emergency. I've actually had 2 instances where police have been dispatched to location, so it really does work. Ordering and setup are so easy. You can design a system best fit for your space, and best part is it ships directly to your doorstep. SimpliSafe is less than $1 a day, and you can set it up in around 30 minutes. There's never a long-term contract, and they even have a 60-day risk-free trial to see if you like it. SimpliSafe protects over 1 million homes in the US alone, so if you're needing a security system, then you can get 20% off when you sign up for the interactive monitoring plan and get your first month for free. If you want to learn more, you can go to simplisafe.com/April. Now I'm going to set that aside and build a pedestal for this giant thing to set on. This is a simple standoff that will lift the cabinet up a few inches off the ground to keep it out of water, should any get on the porch. I'm building this portion from treated 1x boards, and it's just a simple box. I am using exterior rated screws on all of these joints. Oh, and those 2 flat portions will later give me a large area to screw the cabinet down onto. Okay, next, I set that aside and built out the roof. While Armorite is exterior rated, the roof is just one big area that water can collect and sit, so I gave it some extra protection. My solution is to apply a sheet of clear acrylic to the top, and I'm using DAP spray-on contact cement here to join 2 surfaces. I can just spray on a liberal amount to the acrylic sheet, which by the way is just cut 1/2 inch larger on all sides. Then I sprayed more on the wood roof itself. Once it feels like it's tacky, I stuck the 2 together. Now you want to be careful because once the surfaces touch, there is no sliding it in place. It's stuck. So I aligned the back so that I had a little bit of overhang on the 3 sides I could see, then laid the sheet down flat. Now if you want to be a normal person, you could use a roller to compress the 2. If you want to be a weirdo, then you can climb up and roll around on it some. However you do it, once it's good and stuck, you can use a flush trim bit and a palm router to make the edge perfectly flush to the wooden roof. Next, I added it to the cabinet, which is simple. I made the back flush and then measured out the proper overhang on the sides, then front, and then screwed it down to the body. Okay, next I moved to the doors. Before attaching those, I needed to attach hinges. I used a homemade jig to drill the holes, but you can always purchase one as well. The center hole indicates where I need to come back to counterbore for the hinges cup, while the other 2 side holes are locating the screws. I made sure to seal the cup with sealer before attaching the hinges. And these panels are pretty large, so I'm using 4 hinges per door. Oh, when you attach the hinges, make sure the doors are facing the orientation you want. If you add in a decorative feature like I did, then they will be directional. Okay, let's throw them on the cabinet. I'm attaching these before raising the cabinet up on the pedestal so that I can use the floor to rest the door on. But once it's in place, it's as simple as aligning the hinge, then pre-drilling and driving in a screw. Then next I repeated with the second door. You know, I actually think this thing looks good enough to go inside a house even. This is a good looking cabinet. With the doors on, now I just needed to get the pedestal under it and attach it. I did this by throwing in a few screws through the bottom of the unit and into those flat portions of the pedestal. Okay, now for my favorite part, transforming a space. This covered porch is awesome, but without any dedicated storage area, everything just ends up leaning up against the house. First thing I did was clear everything off. I might as well give the area a thorough cleaning before setting the cabinet in place. After blowing off all of the leaves, I brought in a power washer. I'm using the Stihl RE110, which provides an easy to use solution to help with cleaning decks, driveways, outdoor furniture, or the side of a house. It has an integrated pressurized hose reel that has 23 feet of length, and Stihl put it on this easy to use reel so that it's a breeze to bring out more length or wind it back up to stow away. They also put on an exceptionally long power cord so you won't be limited on where you can use it. It delivers 2,000 psi to quickly and effectively clean whatever it is you're tackling, which in my case is the dirt on the side of the house and patio. Then while I was at it, I also cleaned off the brick. Truly, once a pressure washer comes out, it's easy to find stuff to use it on.
This is so satisfying.
Once done, this 110 stores away so compactly. The handle collapses, the wand comes apart and can be stored on board, then it can be wheeled away to be used another day. With everything looking spick and span, I'm now ready to load up the cabinet. The shelves can hold smaller boxes or containers full of items that used to just lay around. The top can store a large tote full of things. Then of course the open compartment can store all of the taller yard tools. Since I'm short, I keep a foldable step stool inside so that I can access the top tote area, because this thing is pretty tall. However, keep in mind that you can completely customize it as you need. If you would like a set of plans with dimensions and a cut list and a material shopping list, then you can check out my website. And I also have the CNC cut file if you want to cut in the same pattern on the doors and sides. I hope that you enjoyed this project and feel inspired to go make your own cabinet. I'll see you on my next project, guys. I want to say a big thank you to Simply Safe for sponsoring this video.